right, guys. Happy Tuesday. Today's the 16th, so I think it's midpoint, right, of our month. And May is almost over. I mean, I just feel like this whole year is going so fast. I can't catch up to it, but I'm not sure if I'm supposed to. But anyway, I'm happy to be here with you guys tonight. I just killed my workout. I'm sweaty, but that's cool, right? That's why we're in the fitness business, and that's okay. It's permitted. But tonight we have an amazing guest. But before I go into that, I just want to remind everyone that tonight is the last day to purchase your tickets for our live event on Saturday, May 20th. Lock it down, guys. You're going to get all the secrets to prospecting and inviting. And it's going to be a morning full of information. You're going to get hot breakfast. And the leaders of Team Advent and Luminous Nation are coming together to bring you the best information and the best tools so that you can take it and go utilize it. So tonight is the last day, 11:59, to purchase your tickets. We have the event page. We need me to send you the link. Let me know, and we can tag you on that. But make sure that you are fully aware that tonight is the last day to do that, all right? What else? Summit is coming up. I think everyone by now should have picked their hall. By now, everyone here should have picked who's going to Summit, should have picked their workouts, and probably gotten your travel arrangements. I haven't bought my plane tickets, I have to confess. But everything else is done. It's going to kill me. But everything else is done, so let's try to, get those arrangements taken care of, because I think the closer we get, the more expensive they're going to get. So, and then also many changes coming to our challenge packs. If you didn't listen to the National Wake Up Call, make sure you listen to the recording, because Beachbody is just really putting together a lot of tools for us so that we can continue to help many, many people. And I'm just excited because, on last week's call, we heard, from Carlos Aguilera and how he gave us all the stats about specifically, the Latino community and how we are suffering from obesity and from being overweight. And so Beachbody just continues to give us, okay, papi, and Matias will jump in from time to time. But, Beachbody just really wants to give us the tools, and it are giving us the tools so that we can go and help more people. So make sure that if you did not catch that call, that you catch the recording, because there are 2 new challenge packs being added as of June 1st, okay? Again, the All Access is on sale all the way through August. $160, I think, is, ridiculously priced. I bought my first challenge pack at $205. You guys know that. 1 program, no containers, and this one is every single program that Beachbody has ever come up with, and the ones that are being released. The one that was released today, for example, actually it was up in the on demand yesterday, last night. So it's already out, right? So we should be also talking about that new program and the newest ones coming out with Sean T and Chris Downing. I mean, just amazing, amazing stuff happening in our fitness world. So without further ado, I want to introduce, and which is why this is important, guys. Going to events is so important, because this is where I met this amazing woman. I had, come across a video that she actually attended the New Leader Conference, the second New Leader Conference. I didn't get an opportunity to meet her because I went to the first one, but I always catch all the recordings to these leadership events, because the stories, right, that are told, you can relate to. And when I saw Stephanie's, I can immediately connect to her story. Obviously, she's a Latina. She's from the Bronx, right? And just everything about her story, when I heard it, it's just so inspiring. So I'm not going to tell you the entire story, because then I would be doing her disjustice. Is that the word? Yeah, injustice. Right? Yes. So I just want to introduce her, Stephanie Burgos, or Dr. Stephanie Burgos, because she earned that bad boy, right? Is a 2015 elite coach. She is 46 months, right? 46 months in Success Club. She's a Success Club all-star legend, which means for our new coaches on the call that she has hit Success Club for 46 months consecutively without missing a month, which is huge. She is a 5-star diamond coach. And I just want to, ask her the first question, as I said earlier, we're going to do it the interview style. But I just want to say that the first time that I met her was at Summit, which is why it's important to go to events. And I think she was sitting in front of us. And she's definitely an extrovert because she's the one who introduced. I would have never. I mean, I recognized her right away, and I was like, oh, "Babe, that's Stephanie Burgos, right?" And Jorge, of course, it's like, "Okay, go say hi," And then she turned around, she said hi, and then we sparked a conversation. We stayed connected on Facebook. Then we saw each other again at Leadership. And, we always check up on each other to see, how she's doing. She checks up on me, how I'm doing. And so we've, really just built a friendship. And that's why, it's so amazing to be Beachbody coaches, because you get to know other people from different backgrounds that have similar mindsets and similar, desires to help people live healthy, fulfilling lives. So, Stephanie, the first question is, how did you come across Beachbody, right? And then what made you decide to work this business? And was there a turning point where you realized that you can turn this into something huge?
Okay, awesome. All right. So first of all, I want to thank, before I kind of start answering the questions, I want to thank you, Gabby, for inviting me. And I want to thank everyone here for coming on, because I really value your time. And I know that we're all incredibly busy, and this shows a lot when you show up to these team calls. So what I want to kind of just put out there from the very beginning is that I am an open book. So whatever questions you have, I'm with you until as long as you need me. Okay. So whatever questions you may have, please feel free as I'm kind of speaking. If there's something that sparks your interest, if you want to know a little bit more about that, please feel free to put it in the message box or send it to Gabby or wait to the end. I will stay with you as long as you want for whatever reason, but I am truly an open book. So I just want to kind of put that out there so that you guys know to ask questions. It's really funny that you say I'm an extrovert, because I think, my whole team are all introverts. And so it's just really interesting. But anyway, so like Gabby was saying, so my name is Dr. Stephanie Burgos, and I actually came across Beachbody as really what happened was that my boyfriend, this was actually in July of 2013. I was in the busiest time of my life. I was a resident at Harvard in Boston, and I was working about 60 to 70 hours a week, and I was overweight. I was unhappy. I was wearing scrubs all the time, and I had a closet full of clothes that didn't fit me, right? And so I was just, and I was very busy. I was working evenings, days, overnights. I had a crazy schedule, okay? But I was unhappy. I was unhappy with how I looked. I was someone I loved to be in photos, but yet I found myself shying away from photographs. I was letting the number on the scale dictate how I feel. I was letting that number dictate how I felt with my boyfriend. It was just I was at a very low point at that time. And so Luke had Insanity as like a bootleg of a bootleg, right? It was like on his, he's over here like looking at me like, you always throw me under the bus, if you could see his face. And so he had like the bootleg of the bootleg that was like the copied version. And he was like, all right, let's do this. Like, let's try this program. And mind you, I was someone that I was very active. Don't get me wrong. I was always at the gym, on the elliptical machine, watching HGTV for like 45 minutes, getting my work, thinking I was getting my workout in. But I was always someone that also loves to eat. I'm a huge foodie. I love to go out to eat. It's like, I love restaurants. I love food. I like salivate just thinking about it. But I knew that was not, what was my food, and my lack of good proper exercise was not helping me clearly. And so I tried Insanity, and it was like soul crushing, right? It's like, how many of you was Insanity like your first program? But like, it was really, homeboy over here, like it was really hard. And so Luke did really well with it, of course, because I feel like men sometimes, if they're in pretty good shape, they do really well in it. But for me, I was like, oh my God, this is like really hard. But what I will say is that I kept seeing the commercials for the Shakeology in it. you know, even though it was the copied version, that still was being shown through. So at the end of like 7 weeks, I made it to like 6 or 7 weeks. I was like, okay, I had started at the same time, I had started going on my phone and looking on Instagram and looking on Facebook, and I would come across these young girls. I'm 32 years old. So I would come across these like 18, 19, 20-year-old girls who were doing before and afters on Instagram. And then they were like selling ebooks. And I was like, wow, like I could do this. Like, you know, like that's pretty cool that they're able to like, you know, I appreciated the hustle of that, right? It's like, I'm someone that I'm always like, well, you know, what's going to be my side hustle? I was always looking for that. And so I was like, okay, great. And so I started seeing that. And then little by little, mind you, I had no idea Beachbody existed at all. And this was only 4 years ago. And you know, no idea. You know, we tend to think that everyone around us knows what Beachbody is when really they don't. And so I had come across T25. That's when Focus T25 had just come out, I guess. And I was like, I really want to try this. It's 25 minutes. I had seen Shakeology on Insanity. I really want to try this, but I don't know anyone. Like, first of all, I didn't even know coaches, you know, the whole coaching network existed. At that same time, I had come across a girl, which I have no idea how I came across, post like some photos on lemon water and some photos, like one photo on fitness, let's say. And she came up to me and she was like, hey, Stephanie, I saw that you posted some photos about lemon water and fitness. I'm not sure if this is something you would be interested in, but I actually think you'd be a great coach. And I was like, well, what does coach? I mean, she didn't know me from Jump Street, you know, like she didn't know me at all. You know what I mean? So like I don't know who this person is. I don't know her. And so I was like, sure, tell me a little bit about it. She's like, you'll get your challenge pack and then you'll get 25% off on Shakeology. And in my head, I had already decided prior to meeting her that I wanted to try this. And I knew that I wanted to try this for a couple months. So in my head, I was like, oh, great. Like, this is great. 25% off. I'll at least do this. What do I have to lose? You know, like I'll do this for the discount, you know. And I said, okay, great, sign me up. I was the easy sell. Like I was like, okay, great, not a problem. That sounds great. Around that same time, I want to preface that I was feeling lost in residency. And what I mean by that is I had spent 12 years of my life becoming a physician, but yet when I got that degree, my next question immediately after was what was next? And I don't know if any of you can relate to that. When you work really hard for something, you achieve it, but then you're still left with that feeling of like, what's next? Like, what's next for me? Like, this can't all be it. And I'm not saying if you are in healthcare or you have a great career, I'm not saying like, I love being a physician and I'm not leaving it anytime soon. But to me, it's genuinely a career. It's not necessarily my passion. It's not necessarily that, you know, that fire within me. And so I was seeking that. My boyfriend's a Latin dancer. He's a salsa dancer, bachata dancer. He's a competitor. You know, he competes, he teaches. And I would watch him for hours, like dancing, you know, listening to music, hours and hours and hours because he loves it, right? And I was like, I want to love something that much. And I don't know what it is. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I kept praying. I kept thinking, oh God, you know, please bring something into me that I will love that much and I will have focus again. And I will be, you know, because I'm someone, I enjoy challenges. That's why I went to med school, also to help people. But I enjoy being challenged. I enjoy working towards something. So obviously I spent 12 years working towards something. And that mindset, and I can talk about that, but that mindset served me well in this business. You know, that idea of like, I need to be working towards something and not being overwhelmed by that idea, but being challenged in a good way by that idea. And so at around that same time that I also found T25, I had come across some young women at the children's hospital. They were young, 18 years old, very overweight, very obese, who wanted to commit suicide, right? And I say that, but it's a fact. You know, obesity is a huge problem. We all know this. You guys were just touching upon it. It's actually my driving force as to why I do this. I very much hold on to the mission of this company, which is why this company is for me and why it aligns with who I am. But I remember being in that room and I remember wanting to do more and I couldn't. And so that's something that Beachbody was able to offer me in that I was like, you know, I wanted to do more. I wanted to be able to pour into them and let them know that I can help them and let them know that they're worthy of their life, that they don't need to commit suicide, because it's a very well fact that, you know, people are committing suicide. You know, it's a fact. And so all of that coupled together, I signed up as a coach, right? I am a very instinctual person. Are there any instinctual people here? Like you just know, you understand your gut. I know my gut, you know? And I remember when I signed up, so Gabby, you asked me, you know, when did that switch happen? I remember when I signed up that night, I had like a fire, like an energy that I was so excited. And all of a sudden, as soon as I signed up, I instantly thought about, wow, what if I could create a platform on social media that allowed me to touch people's lives, allowed me to motivate people's lives, allowed me to educate people outside of my physical reach, outside of what I can do in the exam room, in my clinical setting. And that inspiration, that energy, it's an energy. When you are inspired and you are on fire and you have that something that's lit inside you, there's an energy that comes. And that energy happened that evening. And I remember I was very excited and I said, there's something here. There's something here, and I am going to do what these girls were doing that I saw, these 22-year-old girls who were chronicling their journey and sharing it on social media and being transparent. And that is literally how I started. If you were to go, the best way to see how I started is to go to my Instagram. When I started my Instagram, I had 200 followers. It was just kind of my friends, my family. And when I started my Facebook, when I started as a coach, I had 1,000 followers I had 1,000 friends on Facebook. So I know that's a little higher than most people. Sometimes they have less than 1,000, but still I had 1,000 friends, and that's all I had. And I remember I was like, I'm going to chronicle my journey. And every day, no matter what, every day I did the same 3 posts. I did a post-workout selfie, I did a quote, and I shared something that I ate. And I did it like clockwork. And little by little, you know, I started sharing. And, you know, at first I didn't know if anybody was really listening and I didn't know if anybody was watching. But in my mind, I always, and I still have this mindset today, which is like, I always told myself that if Beachbody, if this investment got me into the best shape of my life, it would be worth it. Like it would be worth my Shakeology purchase. It would have been worth my $205 challenge pack investment, because that's how much it was when it was T25 with no containers and just Shakeology. It was $205. It would have been worth all of that if it got me into amazing shape and if it made me feel good. Now, if I helped one person, that would be the icing on the cake. And that's always been my mindset is can I help one more person? Can my story, can my post inspire that one person who needs to hear what I have to say? And so I never really looked at the likes and the comments, because I genuinely believed that it would come with persistence, with that consistency of posting every single day. And so that's how I started, you know, little by little with you know, and I said, if I can use this program and really get into the best shape of my life, I knew that it was a challenge. I knew that people would want what I had if I showed them the results that I could get with it. And so that's where, you know, obviously we talk about being proof of the products, and that's where it really helps our business. And it's actually helped, I would say, anytime throughout these past almost 4 years that I've been a coach, whenever there's a lull, if I recommit 100% to something that we offer, whether it's the Ultimate Reset or program, and I show results, the people come in terms of just being interested because they see that I'm having results. And so I think the first month I didn't hit Success Club, but after that second month, I've been hitting Success Club since then. And just kind of, and literally it's just been by sharing my story consistently, my journey, no matter what, guys. I will tell you, I can sit here proudly and say that almost for the past 46, 47 months, regardless of my schedule, regardless of what's going on in my life, I have never, ever missed a day of posting to my social media. Never. No matter if there was a death, if I was sick, if I was vomiting, if I was traveling around the world, which I did, if I was moving, I always showed up to my business. That consistency is incredibly, incredibly important in this type of business, in any business, but especially in this type of business where our social media is our storefront. And I think that has helped me to be where I am today and to have, you know, the team that I have today. is that consistency of no matter what, even if I was busy, even if I was really, really tired, I at least tried to post at least once. I at least tried to add some sort of value at least once. In that kind of those, especially, I mean, I've done it for the past almost 4 years, but especially in those first, like I said, if you were to look at my social media like clockwork, every day I did 3 posts every day. And I would just research people, and I researched, you know, other coaches that I felt I connected to. You know, mind you, the coach that signed me up, she then left. You know what I mean? Like she didn't, I mean, I'm just saying, like, she doesn't work the business. The 2 above me don't work the business. So I'm just telling you what you guys have here with Gabby and what she provides, like you guys meet in together, like that's incredible. You know what I mean? Like it speaks, and it's amazing to have those resources, but also know that if you don't have those type of resources, you can still be successful in this business, because there's a slew of resources out there on YouTube and but it really takes that daily mundane, sometimes very mundane work, right? It's not every day, you know, it's the same thing. Everyone's always looking for the secret sauce, but it really is kind of it's the vital behaviors, it's the consistent daily behaviors that you do that really matter. So
you got me fired up, man. Whew. I wish I had you on this call a long time ago. Seriously. But I'm gonna go off script for just a second, because I need my team to know your story before Beachbody, like you know, how you got into medical school, you know, where you come from. So if you could just tell us a little bit, you know, and then we'll take it from there.
Absolutely. So I grew up in New York City. I grew up in the Bronx. And I'm someone that I have battled being overweight all my life. You know, I was an overweight child. And I watched my mother be overweight. So I'm not a mom, but all my mothers in here, your children are watching you. You know, and they're watching your behaviors, and they're watching how you act with food. They're watching how you treat your body. And I remember, you know, being a little girl and going to Nutrisystem and seeing my mom do all these like really crazy diets and never really being happy with herself. And if any of you have seen my posts, you've seen probably my mother's posts. And my mother, that's a whole other kind of fantastic story here within Beachbody, and what Beachbody has been able to bless my family with is my mother's transformation. And I always knew from a young age that I wanted to be a physician. And yeah,
you're a little bit.
Oh, I'm losing. Oh, let's see.
Can
you hear me now?
I can hear you. You were just freezing.
Oh, is that better?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
Got it.
Yeah, let me know if I freeze. But I knew from a young age that I wanted to be a physician, and I kind of like from 7 or 8 years old, and I kind of stuck on that kind of train and that vision. Ever since I was a child, I always had a large imagination. I was always envisioning things of what the future would look like, which again, I think that's a skill that God gave me, a tool that God gave me, because I was able to use that, you know, even now in business, to kind of always keep my eyes on what's ahead, even if it wasn't directly in front of me. But being able to visualize it is incredibly important. That's why if any of you have kids and they're huge imaginations, it's a blessing for them to have those huge imaginations and to read books and to think outside of what they physically see. It's a huge skill set for them to learn. So anyway, so I went on, and I went to an all-girls Catholic high school in the Bronx, you know, which was, you know, quite interesting. I hated it, but that's to say I didn't go to, someone on here went to Aquinas. I didn't go to Aquinas, but I went to St. Catherine's. And so that's probably why we know mutual friends, because of the local all boys schools or whatever. And so kind of that kind of mix. And then I went away for college. I knew from a young age that I wanted to go away for college. And I was someone, like I said, college was difficult for me when it comes to my grades, when it comes to school. I really struggled that first semester, and I kind of did really poorly in some of my really important classes that would get me into med school. And I actually shot myself in the foot and got really bad grades in my science classes. And all through college, my advisors kept telling me that I wouldn't get into medical school because of my grades, because of my poor grades, and were really trying to, you know, really dissuade me from pursuing that path. But again, my kind of belief in myself and me continuing to visualize, I kept persisting, even though I didn't know how it was going to happen, but I kept persisting. After medical school, I went to like a local community college. I took more additional courses. Again, people telling me not to apply. I took the application, the entrance exam. I did horrible on the entrance exam. Of course, what do you do when you do horrible? You take it again. I took it again, and I did even worse on the entrance exam. And I remember feeling absolutely devastated. And I remember my mom, I still remember that day to this day, just being absolutely devastated, on the floor crying. I was like, what am I going to do? But I said, you know what the hell? I'm going to apply anyway. The worst they're going to tell me is no. And the worst they're going to say is that, I don't get in. Obviously it cost me money. So that's what I did. I moved forward and I applied to 30 medical schools. And I remember it very clearly, that process, because the first letter was a no. The second letter was a no. The third letter was a no. All of my first 29 letters were all rejections. They were all rejections. And I remember I had interviewed at the last school and I had not heard from them. So imagine you had gotten 29 rejections. How many of you would have stopped at that point? How many of you would have said, oh, they probably forgot, they lost my application in the mail? Not me. I was like, well, let me call them and see what happened. Let me at least, see if they lost. So I called. And they had forgotten or something. I don't know what happened, whether they felt bad or whatever, but they had either lost my application or they had forgotten. But either way, none to say, that last one ended up being a yes. And I got into medical school in New Jersey, and I did really well in medical school, because let me tell you, what you got to do in college is nothing to do with what you need to know in medical school. And so I did really well in medical school and really pushed myself. I was also very active at that time too, in terms of, I still battled my weight throughout that time. I lost some weight and then I gained some weight again. And then I was able to, and then I got into residency, and I got into residency at Harvard, which was a huge accomplishment for myself, coming from knowing the backhand behind that and knowing how hard it was for me and knowing how many people had told me that I wouldn't be able to be successful at this. That was definitely a fantastic, accomplishment for me. And then in residency was when, I kind of came across Beachbody. So.
Am I? Yep. Okay. I was muted. Every time I hear your story,
I'm sorry, I just have to say that's an awesome story.
Right? It gives me chills, Stephanie. Seriously,
Just didn't give up.
And that's God.
Yeah.
That, he put that in your heart, that you, for you to want to be a doctor, and for you not just that perseverance, the persistence, the fact that you were like, okay, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make it happen. And you did, and here you are, and then you made it to Harvard. Just congratulations. That's just so amazing and so deserving, because you worked hard for it. So
I want to say that I went into debt, and I don't know if you were going to ask me this, but I will say this because I know a lot of people like to know this too. I went into debt, went $300,000 into debt, and then I put it on my mind that I was going to pay it off, and I just paid it off in January. All of my debt, all of my school loans, $300,000 in school loans, with the help of Beachbody. Obviously it was a combination, and I can talk to that too later on, but it was just a combination. I like to let people know that too, because that also takes a certain vision, a certain persistence, and a certain sacrifice to be able to get there.
Congratulations. That's huge. That's huge. I think that either we had this conversation or you shared it on the New Leader Conference, that you said you were living off of your Beachbody income, right? And you were using your
physician
income. Your physician income, and you were just dumping that. So Beachbody, it's a blessing, and now you don't have anything, to owe. You don't have any debt in terms of that. So congrats. That's huge. $300,000. Ooh, girl. So the next question, and we're probably going to just jump a little bit around, but I think, it's going to come together. So how do you motivate your coaches to understand this business and for them to hit Success Club?
So I think, first of all, and obviously there's many ways, and this has been kind of probably my biggest challenge, but obviously when a coach comes on, I really try to bring them through a program first, meaning like I want them to complete a program. in my personal opinion, I personally think the best coaches come on after they've experienced a program. There is a delay in that, obviously, if you were to, however you decide to do that, whether you sign them up as a challenger first and then wait for them to have some success and then approach them about the coaching opportunity, or whether you immediately, introduce the option of a discount coach to them in that type of language, but then realizing that they are still very much a challenger. And so for me, I really try to help them believe in the product first, because I've learned that when you try to really teach someone this business and they don't really believe in the product, they're not going to see success. I try to explain to them, through, one-on-one calls I do with people who are willing to work the business. And I really try to build relationships with my coaches. I think that's incredibly important, to really try to get to know your coaches on a deeper level and to build that connection, because that's what's going to make them stay around and really want to push with you when you have really formed that community and that friendship, and they don't, and help them really see where their limitations are, and see where you can mentor them best. And so I would say that I try, in the beginning, I let them know what Success Club is. I tell them that this is the objective measures that we use, but obviously I meet them always where they are now. Now, was I always like that? No. Now that's the hard lesson that I learned. I was a very strong recruiter, but they were all discount coaches, and I made the mistake of not meeting them where they were. And then I had a whole team that crumbled. And so I can speak to that too. There's the big emotional roller coaster of this business. But I will definitely tell you that it's incredibly important that you always meet your coach where they are. If they are a challenger, love them there. If they are a beginner baby coach, love them there. If they are, a runner, then run with them. But the runners are rare. And that's something you need to understand and not feel bad if you don't come across them a lot. They are genuinely rare. I was a runner. It's rare. If you are a runner, I feel bad, because when you're a runner yourself, it's hard because most people are not runners. And so you want other people like yourself, but it's just not a reality. And it has nothing to do with your leadership, because like I told you, whether or not someone has a good coach or has a good team, everything is out there for them to have success. They do not need our hand holding. They do not need our steps. The motivated individual will get this done and will figure it out. Now, some people need help along the way in other ways, and that's where we step in. But know that someone else's success is not yours, just like someone else's failure is not yours. And I know that can be really hard too when coaches have coaches and they don't want to work this business, and you genuinely internalize that as a failure for yourself. So I do my best to present them with the information at a speed and a pace. I let them know I have a training site. I let them have access to that. We do a coach basics. I let them have access to that. And then I look to see where they genuinely are. And that's really, not everyone is ready. I believe, and this is my own personal belief, I believe that most people come into this business as a challenger. Even if they say they want to work this business, most people come into this as a challenger with limitations, whether it's physical, their own, they want to see transformations, their own inner limiting beliefs. And we need to love on them as a challenger, as a mentor, point them towards personal development. I tell every person that comes across me, if all you do is pick up personal development, I'll be happy. Honestly, I'll be happy. Just because I understand and believe that is the goal of our business is personal development. Outside of the fitness, outside of the shake, outside of the personal development is everything. If you can get someone to start developing their inner self and to start working on themselves, you've given them a gift that will last generations when you do that. And so I try to meet someone where they are, and that would be my best advice to you, is to really take a look at who you're bringing in and meet them where they are. And if they're ready, then mentor them one-on-one. It takes a lot of that. It takes a lot of work in the beginning when you have someone who's genuinely ready. Now, it doesn't mean that the person has to meet you halfway. You know what I mean? The coach has to meet you halfway. If you give them assignments, if you help them and you say, okay, let's work on this, but they're not doing anything, I'm sorry, they're not worthy of your time. And that's something that you have to understand. You have to kind of, really decide what that limitation and what that marker is going to be. But that takes time to develop. But that's my advice to you as someone that's been around for almost 4 years. You have to work with the willing and then let everyone else kind of fall where they are.
Okay. Yes. I love it. Everything you said. It's like you were just talking to me. Like I had a moment with you right now, right? No, seriously. Listen, so we just went to an event. I think it was this past weekend. My weekends are all kind of discombobulated. And I'm not even a physician, so I feel for you because I'm sure your schedule's crazier. But we just went to the Philly Playbook event, and Coach Jimmy he gave a really cool example. Well, he was saying how, I think when he first hit elite or something, they went down somewhere to Texas, I think, or something. Beachbody had I guess their leadership thingy. And he said, I'm going to figure this out. I want to know what the process, these people went through so that I can also, make sure that I put my coaches through that process so that they can hit elite, right? Because he's like, there has to be something to it. And so he said the first person he interviewed, the person was like, yeah, no, my coach doesn't even work the business, just like you said, right? And he was like, yeah, you're a unicorn. So he moved on to the next person. And he said he went, from person to person. And the majority of the people in there figured it out on their own. And I love how you said that, there's limited amount of runners. And that's just part of this business, and we definitely have to love everybody. So I just love everything you said. So I wanted to share. Oh, so the funny part that he said was he told his wife, he came home and he's like, this is crazy. All these people hitting elite and they don't have a system. They don't have upline coaches support, blah, blah, blah. He's like, I'm just going to get all these coaches, put them on a dead leg and never talk to them. Watch them go elite. So it was just a funny joke. And I was like, maybe it can happen.
Well, there is one, because I think, wherever you are in this business, wherever you are, whether you are a brand new coach or whether you are an emerald coach or a ruby or a diamond or a star diamond, I had listened to, I do a lot of Danny Johnson training.
Yep.
She's someone, if you guys are spiritual people or just business, she's a fantastic personal development event to go to. I do a lot of live events when it comes to personal development, just because I know how I learn. It's an investment. I know that it's an investment to my business and to myself, and to, my boyfriend comes along with me. But anyway, she described the different types of people in this industry. And so, you have for example, you have your people who are going to be your workers, and they come in and they genuinely do everything you tell them to do. And that's great. Those are the people we all really, really want, but that's not that's not the majority of people. You have, what she calls your cheerleaders, right? It's these are the people that they're just they love you, Gabby, or they love you, Ada. They love you. They love they love Beachbody and they love Shakeology, but they do not do the business. No matter what, they're just yes, Stephanie, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to try, but yet they never do anything. And it's because they're the cheerleaders, and we need them. We need them for morale. We need them in our team for morale, but we got to love them where they are. We have the part-time people, it's they come in for a couple weeks, for a couple months, they on track, and then they leave. And then they come back and then they leave again. And you're like, what the hell happened again? I don't know. Those are your part-time people. And those are the people, you got to love them where they are too. When they leave, don't give them slack for leaving. Just say, okay, we'll be here, just, keep, call me when you need me, And so, because if you give them slack, they're never going to come back. And you just, and you just never know. And, and so it's she just spoke to different people and how we need everyone involved. We need those loyal customers that are discount coaches that drink Shakeology every month and helps our volume. We need them. We need to love them where they are, support them where they are. And so it's just been a really interesting kind of journey for myself as I've kind of seen how my team has changed, and how my team has gotten smaller. And so I've had to learn a lot of lessons.
No, I agree. You know, you've been in this business a year longer than I have, and I've come across, you know, similar situations, and I've had those conversations where, you know, it's okay. You know, it's okay if you want to just be a challenger. You know, while you may think you want to be a coach, this might not be for you. You know, because
and it may not be for them right now.
Right now, too. Right.
But,
And that's where the door is always open. They always know you can always come back when you're ready. You know, that day may come, that day may never come, but this is your team, whether it's support, whether, you know, so there's so many areas. So I definitely agree with you. All right. So let's move on to the next question. So the next one is, I think this is huge because, I mean, you're doing so well in this business. You've done amazingly great. And you're a physician. I know from speaking to you that your schedule is crazy. You know, you're a traveling physician as well. And so the question is, what is your organizational system? Do you use a good tracking system and really plan out your month? Because she's laughing. Because, you know, you're all over the place. You know what I mean? And you work long hours. Okay, so you guys are laughing. I'm nervous.
No, I'm laughing because my boyfriend is hearing you, and so he's laughing.
He's laughing?
He's laughing at this question that you're asking me.
Could Luke answer this question for you?
Luke could answer this question. I'll explain why. So I'm going to tackle this in a couple different ways. I'm going to tackle this as when I first started and when I didn't have help being my boyfriend. So that's why he's laughing, because my boyfriend and I work this business together now. And so he's home full time. I kind of look at what my income is with Beachbody as his income, so that just because he's so much a part of our brand and what we build as a team. But let me take you back to when I first started. So when I first started, he didn't come into the picture for about a year and a half. And so when I first started and I was working this business, I will tell you that I am the least organized person ever. Like, actually, it has been my Achilles heel, how unorganized I am. I do everything by the fly on my pants. I post by the fly on my pants. Now, I'm telling you this because I want you guys to understand that, especially my people who feel they need an organization or some sort of system, it's not absolutely necessary as long as you take imperfect action. Taking imperfect action. It's like, because when you want things to be perfect, that can lead to perfection paralysis, and where you don't do anything. And so taking action, as long as you're taking action, that's all that matters. If you're talking to people, if you're posting, that is all that matters. You have to be posting and talking to people every single day. Whatever happens everywhere else, like, let it fall, have grace for yourself, have compassion for yourself, understand that things will get done. So in the beginning, I worked this business in the cracks of my time. Like I said, I was working crazy hours, 70 hours a week, 60, 70 hours a week. I was commuting. So I would commute in a train. I would commute. I always did a lot of work on my phone. I was always posting on my phone, listening to Audible for personal development, utilizing my transit time for Audible and for kind of personal development. And also if I was doing something sedentary, like on the bus or on the train for whatever reason, then I would utilize that to check into my groups and to communicate with people, to message people. And so that was kind of what that was my system in a sense. I will say that I have the one vital behavior that I have always done is I always talk to people, which I think that's probably why I've had success, because that is the one vital behavior that's going to really genuinely move your business forward. So no matter what, even if I missed the workout, which I rarely did, but I will tell you, it took me a long time to do personal development. I was not someone that did personal development in the beginning. Not that I didn't think I needed it, but it was like I couldn't find time. At first I was like, I can't sit down and read a book. And that's why, honestly today, now that I have the means, that's why I go to live events, because I know the way that I learn, and I learn best when I expose myself, when I sit there and I have to give you my time for 4 days, let's say, or 3 days. That is when I get the most. And that's why I continue to invest in that. But in the beginning, I just listened to Audible. And so I did that, and I didn't have any follow-up system. I really didn't. And as a result, I had lots of holes. Lots of people were forgotten because I was doing everything on Messenger. And so that's not a good system. And I tried every system, and I would tell you that the best system that works is the one that works for you. And, you know, I know that doesn't sound very, but like, it really does. It's really true. I tried, you know, the paper and pencil, and I was like, oh my God, like this kind of works. This doesn't work. And then I tried electronic, and I was like, well, this doesn't work either. Then as I call myself, I'm like the follow-up queen. I have no remorse. I follow up until I get a no. And that's one thing, you know, I think that also helped me. It's like, I want to know until you get a no. Actually, the message that I send to people now, I'm like, I don't want to waste your time or my time. I just want to know if I should keep following up with you. And I will keep following up with you until I get a definitive no from you. So please let me know if you're still interested in working with me, because I will continue to follow up with you. So that's my message. I'm much more direct now too, but I was always someone that I was never afraid to follow up with people. What for? And I think it's because of my own personality. Like, I have to be reminded like so many times to do something. Like, I have to be reminded. Gabrielle probably messaged me a couple different times to get me on this call, because I'm always like on the go, or like I think about like how many times we see messages and we don't really process them, and then we forget about them. And then I also know people are not opening up their messages, they're not opening up their emails. My email's going to spam. So I'm not going to let the fact that I haven't heard from someone stop me from following up with them until they tell me no. And I'll be honest, I've only had maybe like a couple people who are like, actually maybe like one or two people in all of my times of following up with people where they're just like, leave me the hell alone. Like, you know, and so for what it's worth, and I've done a lot of follow-ups. So I did that, which was not very good in terms of my lack of system. And then I started using Google Streak, like the Gmail for Streak. And I used that for about a year and a half. And that's when Luke started coming in, because he would see that I would get flooded with these messages, and it was really overwhelming. And when I always tell people, I believe God gives you what you can handle, right? Amen to that. I believe God gives you what you can handle. If you are someone that you can't even handle, you know, posting every single day and doing your workout and like, you know, showing up every single day, what's going to make you think you can handle 5, 10, 15 challengers and run a group, right? I mean, let's be honest. You know what I mean? Like, that's the hard truth. And I believe, you know, God meets you where you are. And I believe that. And so when things started getting busy, I was like, whoa, like this is a lot. Like this is a lot. It was really, really overwhelming. And those of us who have had that blessing of having those types of overflow of people coming to us, you know how overwhelming it can be when you have people responding to you. You wake up to messages and you're just like, oh my goodness, like you're attached to your phone and you don't have, you know, it can be really overwhelming. And so I remember when that first started, or when that became more of a habit, and Luke had just lost his job at that time. And I was like, well, why don't you learn this with me? You know, why don't you learn this? I would love your help to be able to be my voice. And actually, honestly, now that's what he does. He does a lot of my forming. He helps me with a lot of the background stuff, because we learn. I mean, and I can always talk to that as well. And we can always do a call on that too, if you ever want us to, but just like how we work together, because we've learned a lot and that's a very interesting dynamic, and a very, you know, because at first it was like, I wanted him to work his business. That didn't work, because remember, you are the one with the vision. Your spouse does not have the vision. You are the one. And so you can't expect your spouse to work this business. And if you're sitting and praying and waiting for your spouse to work this business before you feel like you have the full approval to go forward, that's never going to really happen. You have to show them. Now, if they're willing, not every spouse is willing to help. If they're willing to help, that also takes some grace and some great communication skills, and and just being very open to communication with each other. But anyway, so he helped me, and we started using Streak for follow-up, and that helped. You guys do like electronics and you don't use Streak, it's a free system, and I really enjoy. I did that for a long time. But even still with that, I still had people falling through, but I was able to utilize labeling on Gmail to be able to know where I was in the script. So I always followed a script. That's another thing. I will say that. I always followed a script. So when I tell coaches, this is the script that I use, I'm not lying. This is the script that I use. And it's script 1, script 2, which is probably similar to what we all follow. It's like, what are your goals? And what have you been doing to accomplish those goals? And how much time do you have? You know, and then you say, great. You empathize a little bit with them. And then you say, great, this is what I have to offer. And then you just kind of follow up from that. It's a very simple script. It's how I was able to show Luke, you know, because he was able to follow that script. So in my Gmail, I had labels of like script 1. I had all these people in script 1, script 2, script 3, sent sign up link, need to follow up. And then I would have different labels for January follow-up, February follow-up. So that was my kind of rudimentary attempt, you know, and it worked. It worked for a long time. And then now I use Teamzy is what I use. We use Teamzy as a, it's honestly been a game changer for us when it comes to following up. Luke loves it. Like it just gives us, it tells us exactly who we need to follow up with. Yes, it's, you know, it's $25 a month, or 29 or whatever it is, but it's an investment that helps us to be able not to lose people. And then, so I would say that. Now, when it comes to personal organization, I would tell you, I equate my journey with my organization, like my organization skills to like losing weight. It's like or like trying to read the Bible. Like my goal this year is to read the Bible from beginning to end. I keep straying away from that. I keep trying to come back. I keep straying away. I get right back on track. Same thing with my organization. And it's about understanding that you do not, you know, having grace for yourself in all aspects of your life, you know, both as a challenger and as an entrepreneur, because if you don't have, and I speak a lot to this about my team, to people in general, you must have grace for yourself and just forgive yourself and not be so hard on yourself and just get right back on track and just keep moving forward. That's incredibly important, as I'm sure all of you guys know. And so I am someone that this year I made it my goal, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to start by putting everything on a calendar. So now everything goes on a calendar, and it's becoming more habitual for me. And it's becoming more where I actually need them on the calendar, and it helps me. Before, I was that person that I didn't want to live from a schedule. I found it very constricting. It's why I went into emergency medicine. But as my business grew, I knew that was a limiting factor. And that's where you really have to be doing personal development and knowing what your limitations are and working on those limitations so that you can continue to move forward. And so I've just been working from a calendar, doing my best to create a to-do list, working from that to-do list. That's my area now that I need to continue to work on, because again, like I said, I'm kind of all over the place.
Wow, that's amazing.
My challenge, someone said, go ahead.
No, I said that's amazing. I'm using Teamzy too. I never got into Streak. I thought it was too complicated, but Teamzy is working really nicely. No, I love it. I love everything you had to say. So the next question, I'm like taking notes, but I already wrote on the top of my notebook. I need to listen to this call again, like literally, because you're giving a ton of nuggets. So the next question is, what is the best piece of advice you have for people who are newer or fell into a slump with this business? Do you have a favorite PD book or mentor?
Okay, great. Yeah. So like I said, personal development is everything in this business. I can't stress that enough. If you guys are not doing personal development, it's what's going to get you through the ups and the downs of this business. The entrepreneurial roller coaster is real. It's very, very real. And if you are not strong, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have a strong why, if you don't know why you're doing this, you're going to be tossed and turned, and the dips are going to be so low, and so what I would say is, when I will tell you that last year was the hardest year for me. And I went from elite, I went from 5-star all the way down to 1-star. And I had a whole team that left. I had builders that left. And it wasn't because I had builders that left because they had great opportunities and they wanted to create things of their own. And I was incredibly happy for them and I supported them. They're still my closest friends. But it was still hard as someone that, who poured so much into building a team. And so I felt lost last year. I genuinely did. But I will say I never missed my vital behaviors. I never stopped posting and I never stop sharing, but my heart was not in it. And it was obvious. And like, it was a very unsettling time for me because it took me a whole year of just pouring into personal development. I kept listening to leadership books. I kept going. I went to I went to Unleash the Power Within with Tony Robbins, which is coming to your area, which if you guys can go to that, it's a fantastic, fantastic event. I can't speak enough to Tony Robbins. I did some other, did lots of Danny Johnson events, just really pouring in so that I could try to get that spark back because I was hurt. It's lack of better terms. I was hurt. And Gabby knows this feeling. Like I was hurt and I was disappointed in my team, in people. And it was because you give so much and you do so much and you're always giving and people are always taking. And if you're not, you have to be making sure that you're always pouring into yourself and kind of that realization that you cannot make anyone work this business. The only person you can make work this business is you, no one else. And that's why when people tell me, someone in your downline, their success is not your success. It's their success. Just like their failure is not your failure. It's their failure. And certain books that I love, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. Brene Brown is a fantastic, fantastic writer. She did her PhD in shame. And so the concept of shame and the topic of shame. And so she has a fantastic book called The Gifts of Imperfection, especially if you're someone that you consider yourself a perfectionist. It's a fantastic book, a very deep book. The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster by Darren Hardy is a fantastic book. John C. Maxwell is a fantastic mentor. I love him. He's spiritual. He just has such great rooted concepts and good leadership development. I really enjoy his content. Obviously, I've already spoken to Danny Johnson and her topics. I have her whole university. And so, just listening to, her audio is really powerful and really great. I'm trying to think what else in terms of just books, some feminine, girl book, like Girl Code is a good book. You Are a Badass is a good book as well. But I would definitely say, definitely Gifts of Imperfection is my favorite book. And then The Entrepreneurial Roller Coaster was a really good listen. The Energy Bus is a great book. If you guys haven't read The Energy Bus or listened to it, it's a great, fun read. So that's really good. Relentless is a good book. If you guys have not heard, I think it's Jim Grover, or last name is Grover. That's he is either, I forget what he does, but he works with athletes. And so the book talks a lot to the athletes and how relentless they are. And the whole topic is about persistence, and the whole book is about that. So that was a really good book that really spoke to me as well. But those would be like kind of my books. And I would say that when you are in a slump, it's really diving into the personal development and really reevaluating why you wanted to do this in the beginning, and realize that nothing in life comes easy, right? Like nothing comes easy. Everything we're going to have to work hard. Everything we're going to be challenged. Everything we're going to have obstacles. If you think of obstacles like you're on a road and an obstacle is just a big rock in front of you. You have a decision whether or not you're going to stop there and let that, that huge rock get in your way, or if you're just going to figure out a way to get around it or go over it. And some people have more rocks in their life because of maybe the circumstances going on in your life, or maybe the people you surround yourself with. You got to be mindful of the people you surround yourself with. That's incredibly important. So also when you're in these slumps, thinking about who you're surrounding yourself with. Are you surrounding yourself with negative Nancys who are just bringing you down, who have no idea, are you going to people in your life who have no idea of ever wanting to have a business? They've never owned a business. And so why would you go asking them for advice about a business? You know what I mean? Or how do you push pushing that mindset past that? So just being really mindful. That's one thing I will say. I've always been very blessed to know and have that foresight to always surround myself with people who are going somewhere, or who in this business, who are doing well in this business, and they see and they're not going to tell me to stop, or they're not going to tell me to give up, or they're not going to be that kind of negative. But I will tell you guys this, it's like you always must be reevaluating your why. You always must be reevaluating and looking at your mission. because that's never gonna end. You're gonna have ups and downs in this business. And the more that you develop that kind of tough skin you have, the more strength you have of understanding what your vision is and what your mission is, that's going to serve you when those slumps happen. If you are easily derailed, it's because your why isn't deep enough. It's because you really haven't figured out how Beachbody is going to be a connector to whatever it is that whatever that dream you have in your life, whatever that dream God placed in you, you have to see how Beachbody can be a connector to that. It's not like I woke up one day and was like, I want to sell challenge packs, right? It's not like that's not what I do, but my mission of empowering people and, combating obesity, because I want to combat depression and anxiety, because my mission, I'll tell you my mission is that when I hear that 50% of our population is going to be obese by 2050 and that 50% of our population is going to be diabetic, really scares me, because I see how much depression there is out there. I see how much anxiety there is out there. And I do correlate obesity with depression and with anxiety, because what comes with obesity is people who have low self-esteem, who have low self-confidence, who do not believe in themselves. And what I see when I think of 50% of our population being that way, I see a huge amount of our population being unproductive in life. And I see dreams and visions and things that were placed in them by God dying. That is why I do this business. I do this business because I know that if I can get someone to believe in themselves, the challenge pack is the first step, right? The challenge pack is the first connection to them, to help them have that self-care for themselves, because I know that if they start feeling good about themselves, then I can start working with them on their mindset, because that's what I want. I want the mindset. I want them to succeed in life, but I know that I need to give them that win of seeing that confidence, and seeing that change in their body, because that's what's going to help them. And so that's why I do this. And that's a mission that's huge. You know what I mean? Like, that's a mission that all of us, we need to be involved, because it's a huge problem, because all of our things that are killing our country are all preventable with nutrition and with exercise. Absolutely 100% preventable. Everything that we're going through, preventable, all with proper nutrition and exercise. And we need more people being that example. And especially in our population, in our community, it's a huge issue, because, and so we need more, more fighters out there, more people out there educating. And I also think about that in this business. I look at this business with an abundance mindset. I think there's enough out there for everyone to succeed and have success. I think that has served me well, because I don't look at everyone as competition. I don't think people are competing against me, because I know the right people are going to come to me. And I know the people who need to connect with me are going to connect with me because of my story and who I am. Just like every single one of you has a unique story, because people, I will tell you what I've learned is that people are starving for a human connection of who can I relate to. And when we all stay quiet with the struggles that we've had, and we stay quiet because we don't want to air our dirty laundry, we don't do any service. We are doing actually an injustice to people, because we're not allowing ourselves to be relatable to people, because people out there are thinking they're all alone in their struggles, when a lot of you, I'm sure there's a lot of struggles in this call, a lot of triumphs, a lot of successes, a lot of lows. But you guys are all here. So the fact that you're all here, it shows me that you guys have come through a lot of those obstacles in your life, and you can use that experience to speak to your audience and to really serve your audience, because they're looking for a connection to someone like them. So realize that is your power. That is your uniqueness, is your story and who you are and your struggles. And if you're not being transparent with that, you're going to have a hard time building this business. If you're scared to share who you are, if you're scared to share the struggles, you're going to have a hard time connecting with people. You cannot be superficial, which is why I love this business, because it forces people to communicate more, to be transparent, to really look at themselves, and to utilize what has happened to them to serve someone else and be that inspiration and that motivation to that other person.
Girl, I can keep you here all night, but I'm not.
No, but there's some questions here. So let me see. Hold on. There's how do you run your challenge groups? Okay, so I do my challenge groups on a running basis.
Oh, in the challenge, in the where did you see that?
In the message box, in the chat.
Okay.
So I told them they're listening. I told them to write their questions.
I'm like, girl.
So no, but so I run my challenge groups as a running challenge group, meaning that I do not start a new challenge group every single month. I do not have the time for that. I'm sorry. I literally am now I create urgency because people don't know that. I'm like, oh, I have my next starting next week. They don't need to know that it's the same group that I'm just adding them to. So I have a running challenge group. What I do is on the tracker, I just restart a group every single month. And literally I'm sorry, I'm not someone, I don't use the tracker that much. And so to me, and I tell my customers that the tracker is literally, if they just literally want to track, if they want to use it to track it. Some of my customers like it. I have some people from Instagram that, that don't have Facebook. And so I put them in there because at least I know they'll be connected to me, but I do that. Do I do auto post? How do you check meals? What do you mean by meals? So auto post, no, I don't do auto post. Again, like I said, that sounds like a great idea that I should do in terms of scheduling my post out. I don't have, I will say this, I used to do that. And Luke, we used to do it on Sendable or Hootsuite, and we used to schedule our posting out. I am going to be getting back to that because it's beneficial to have that type of organization. But I will tell you, like I told you, I'm being transparent. I'm not a very organized person. But I just always show up to my challenge group, and I always, support, and I always just try to lead by example. And I tell my customers that. I say at the end of the day, I am just like you, and I'm going to lead from the front. You're going to see everything, and I'm going to, lead by example. And as long as I show up every single day, I feel like I'm doing my job. Sometimes in the past, I've done like photo a day challenges, and I've tried to do the points, but then the points end up being too much work. And so I was like, I'm not going to keep track of all these points. And so again, it's the same thing. At the end of the day, the person who bought the challenge pack, it's, as long as I provide them with the community, I cannot force them to post. I can't force them to be active. I can only do my best. And so I do use Teamsy to try to know to follow up with them. And what I've been doing now is I've been utilizing like text messages and voice memos to try to really send out messages. I actually heard a really good tip the other day, which is like, if you had basically if you were following up with your challengers every week, you can create a voice memo. And let's say you just very generic, like, hey girl, how are you? Just wanted to see how you were doing, checking in. How did last week go? You could have that voice memo. And then when you look at the voice memo, right next to it, there's a forward button. So then you can forward that generic message to all your challengers, and it's like an individual message, and you don't have to keep voice messaging them. But it's like, I thought that was really cool. You can do the same thing with a video. You can be like, hey, hey girl, how are you? Just wanted to check in, see how your week went. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm here for you. Send them that message really quick, and like, you just record it once and then you send it. I thought I didn't even think about that. I thought that was a really cool tip that I got the other day. So
they feel special.
That's good. Yeah, I just learned that. What else? What other questions you guys have?
I was looking. I don't think there's anything else. I have one last question, and then and I think you can kind of pull it, together with this one question, and then maybe we can keep you for 5 more minutes, and then see if anybody has a question for you. But this one is a good one. What advice would you give to people about you gave a lot, so I don't even know if I want to ask this, but what advice would you give to people about staying? No, that's not it. What was the one thing you wish you had known about when you first started that you weren't aware of when you became a coach?
Oh, the one thing. I think I would say the one thing that I wish I knew is that concept of that you have to meet people where they are, and that not everyone is going to work this business, and that it's not a reflection of you. I think that was probably because I consider myself a very strong, emotionally strong person. And the thing that really the thing that really got to me was when people who I mentored one-on-one, when they left and without telling me that they left. That's the worst thing you can do to me, or like the thing that really got me upset are the ones that kind of just disappeared, people who I spent time. Now, if you signed up as a coach and we never even got on a call and like I could barely get a hold of you and you ended up leaving, I'm like, that didn't bother me as much. But it was people who you pour into, you mentor, and then you get like a coach cancellation form and they never told you anything. And, or, you know, and so that like things like that, that's where this business really got me in a low spot. But I would definitely say what I wish I had known is just the fact that you're going to be working with people. And I mean, I knew I was going to be working with people, but it's just, you know, everyone works at different speeds and you have to be willing to meet them where they are. And if I would have known that from the beginning, I will say my biggest lesson that I learned, like I told you guys, is that I recruited a lot of discount coaches and I lost most of them because I tried to force them to learn this business when they were really genuinely challengers. When really I needed to look at them as only as challengers and not even put them into a team page, not even just really love them where they are. And that was a lesson that I learned. And so that was the biggest lesson that I learned.
Love it. I'm going to open it up. I'm going to do the gallery view. So if anyone has a question for Stephanie, this is your opportunity because we are obviously.
Yeah, real quick, Stephanie, that last answer that you had, because I did add on the chat, I've been in Emerald for a year. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, though, I thought it was like, oh my God, I got to get to, timing. I got to get to timing. But my thing is that I like building relationships, but then I lost the business part. You know what I mean? I just kept supporting, the challengers, the texters. I use that same system because I have like 4 girls I text on a weekly basis because they don't want to be in a group. So I don't force them to be in a group. So I text them every week, how you doing? Is it exhausting? Heck yeah, because I'm going to forget. So I'll post it. So my question is, because I've been in Emerald for a year, I love building relationships and I'm not going to stop that because that's what I like to do. Most of my time when I talk on the phone with people is basically giving them scripture because they really have other baggage underneath. Mm-hmm. So a lot of my time is spent on that. And I appreciate that. So I learned not to take it as an objection, because they don't want to join right now. I believe that that's where I'm supposed to be. And that's where I'm supposed to meet them. Mm-hmm. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm learning that this year because I know Gabby and I talk a lot, this is the year that I'm really working hard. I wasn't doing personal development because I had other stuff I thought I needed to do. So I'm really doing a lot of that, definitely a lot of the trainings. I try to attend the live events because they really help me. I'm very visual. I need to see people and learn and listen. So I just wanted to mention that I didn't want to I thought that I was going to get stuck reaching people at God's level. Mm-hmm. But now I know that I'm not, listening to you saying, meet them where they are. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Because being in this for a whole year, it's really the first time I ever heard that. I'm sure I heard that in my job many years ago, but it really hit me tonight. Like, meet them where they are. Mm-hmm. And so I'm going to keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Just wanted to share that.
Any questions?
2 more minutes, guys.
Any questions?
I have a random question. Hi. Being that you work in the medical field and you see people that come in with, especially like obesity and conditions related to not taking care of themselves, do you ever bring the Beachbody business into work and ever, okay. Never like talk to them about actual fitness and.
No. So that's how because I know that's how and I think that's how most healthcare professionals do. I do not talk about Beachbody at work. Now, my coworkers may follow me, but when it comes to patients, absolutely not. I do not, I keep that very separate. People don't know how active I am on social media. They don't know my handles, my social media handles. So I keep that very separate. So no, all of my team, all of my challengers are all organic through social media. One thing I will say, guys, is you need to make sure, the best advice I can tell you guys is, make sure that you guys are following some sort of social media calendar that you guys create for yourself, and make sure that you have a system where, yes, you have challenger recruitment, but you also have coach recruitment. And so like for someone like yourself, Ada, if you're trying to build a team, my question to you my question to challenge you would be, how often are you talking about coaching within your posting? How often are you sharing what coaching has done for you? And remember, even in the beginning, when you don't have necessarily the financial, because you have to remember that there's a lot of people out there like myself. I didn't come into this for the money at all. And I still don't come into this for the money, and I still don't do this for the money.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm sorry, I cut you off. I started doing that a lot this year. So
right.
Every month, I haven't gone live on that. Eventually I will, but I'm posting
right.
why I became, and not only me, why with the team,
right.
and my why. So I'm doing that.
And that's important. I know for me personally, what I do, guys, is that my first 2 weeks of the month, I focus on challenger recruitment and focusing on a challenger. And then I switch, which is like what I'm going to be doing right now. I'm going to switch over to the second half of the 2 weeks, and I'm going to be talking more about coach prospecting. And so I'll run my coach sneak peek at the end of the month, but there should be at least, a good 10, 14 days of your posting where you are talking about coaching, and you're talking about that lifestyle, and you're talking about whether it's, the team culture, whether it is, having you have passion again and dream again, and just kind of the mission and what, what you're hoping to achieve, even if you don't have that financial success again. But speaking to those things is going to be incredibly important. And then when it comes to your social media calendar, really, and that's something, again, I'm sharing with you what I'm learning, that I've seen, and what I try to teach my team, and something that I'm trying to get into the habit is that type of system of, what am I going to be posting every single day, and really thinking about who you're speaking to, and really thinking about the 5 qualities of yourself that make you different from other people, and kind of thinking about your avatar. Gabby, are they familiar with the concept of avatar and whatnot, and what that means?
Unless they're like super, super new, yes, everyone went through an exercise where they had to put an avatar. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, so speaking to your avatar and making sure, because all of us on here should be sharing our story at least twice a week. That is something I've learned from other top coaches. It's something that I even have to work on more, because we think, right? We think, oh, we shared our story, like our whole social media knows our story. No, it doesn't work like that. Only 2, probably even less now, 2% of what we post actually gets pushed out into and it's ever changing, always changing. And so, and especially depending on where you grow, if you're growing, I do both Facebook and Instagram. They're 2 very different platforms. If you're on Instagram, you got to be more consistent. You should be posting your story every day. You can post your story every day. But on Facebook, I always tell people at least twice a week, you should be sharing your story of what, your why and what life was like before Beachbody. Even though you think it's the same story, trust me, there are people out there who haven't heard it. And that's something, but if you are building, you need to make sure that you're talking about coaching in your posting, and calling out and asking people to, and just kind of talking about how much is changing your life, because otherwise, people are not going to know, they're not going to want to join. They're not going to know what it's all about.
Thank you. Thank you so much. One more question, and then we're going to wrap it up, guys. Right. No one else. Stephanie, thank you so much for being so open, so transparent, for sharing a ton of nuggets. This is definitely a call, you guys, that you want to listen to again and take more notes. I know I'm going to.
I took a lot of notes, but I'm sure I missed some stuff.
I'm going back. I mean, she gave you actionable items. She totally told you what you should be posting on a daily basis that she's been doing for the past 4 years. She told you about the monthly calendar. We follow a calendar, but you were more specific as to, this is what you do for 2 weeks, and this is, and you switched it up. I mean, you gave us what you do. So I appreciate that. I appreciate you coming on tonight and sharing, everything about your experience, just being transparent with us. And
I'm going to leave you one last thing I want to say.
Go ahead.
Because I think it's incredibly important. One thing is that all of you should be focusing on building your social medias. That should be a paramount thing. And what I mean by that is understanding that growing your social media, taking photos, writing your story, those are all skills. Anything, a skill needs to be practiced and needs to be developed and needs to be worked on. It's like you have to realize that this business is all about having as many eyes see what you are posting and what you are sharing. And every single week, every single month, you should be having more eyes via your social media numbers growing. You should not be expecting the same 500 people on your list to come out of the woodworks and now you're going to be getting 2 people from that list. I will say now, for example, in 4 years, I told you my initial numbers. I'm at 24,000 on Instagram, and I'm at 35,000 on Facebook, and I'm at 5,000 max on my friends list. And so I'm telling you guys because you need to be growing. You cannot be going to the same circle of people. And one other piece of advice I would tell you is that if you are someone that you happen to know a lot, you got to think about who can also afford our products and really be mindful of that and not feel discouraged if you have a lot of people who can't afford your products for whatever reason. They can still continue to be a part of your social media and whatnot, but you also have to start thinking ahead and start thinking and broadening your reach, and really thinking about, who are you marketing to, and thinking about if they are going to be able to afford our products. So just being mindful of that. I always tell people, if Burberry was in the hood, it would go out of business because nobody can afford it. And so it doesn't mean that it's a bad business, and it doesn't mean that it's unsuccessful. It just means that the people in the hood can't go putting that in there. So sometimes, there are people out there struggling, and that's a fact. And I'm aware of that. And they can continue to follow me on my social media for inspiration. But to get into my group, you have to pay to get into my group. I'm more strict with that now. Especially now, just because of how much time it takes. But just be mindful and just know that your time is worth paying for. And don't be afraid to, don't be always taking free. People want everything for free. And I'm sorry, it can't all be for free. So my piece of advice to you, to leave you guys with, is that you guys should all be focusing on always growing your social media and always defining who your avatar is and who you are, and developing that brand of yours. And that takes time, and that's going to ever be developing. I struggle with that too. Yeah.
You close it out. Thank you so much. I'm definitely going to have you back because you were, saying, and I could talk about that and I could talk about that. So I'm going to be in touch. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you. And we'll be seeing each other soon at the Tony Robbins event.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
Good night, everyone. Good night.
Bye.